I think we're all familiar with the phrase, you can't judge a book by its cover. But if I pick up a book with a cover that says Merriam-Webster's dictionary on it, I'm going to expect that book to give me words and their definitions. My name is Cameron Nuza, and this presentation will analyze the connection of the role theory found in sociology to the film Good Will Hunting. As I just mentioned, the film we will be looking at today is Good Will Hunting, which is directed by Gus Van Sant and written by Ben Affleck and Matt Damon, who star in the movie. So whether or not you've seen this movie, I'll summarize it for you in a few short words. A kid from South Boston, a janitor, and a genius. So I know if you haven't seen the movie, you might be a little confused by these words, but that's okay. Before I explain what those mean, though, I would first like to explain the role theory. The role theory was created by Robert Merton, who is often referred to as a founding father of modern sociology. Dalton Conley, and you may ask yourself, defines role theory as a way to describe social interaction. In the journal Recent Developments in Role Theory, B.J. Biddle defines role theory as concerning one of the most important characteristics of social behavior, the fact that human beings behave in ways that are different and predictable depending on their respective social identities and the situation. So, this movie, if you can remember, if what I said earlier about a kid from South Boston, a janitor, and a genius. Now, this is not the beginning of a punchline involving three men who are about to walk into a bar. They all describe the main character, Will Hunting. As directed in the film, Good Will Hunting, Sant tells the story of Will, who has a genius-level IQ, but chooses to clean the floors of MIT. One day, math professor Lambeau sees Will solving one of the most complex problems he knows. Lambeau takes misguided Will under his wing after Will was arrested for assaulting a police officer, and Lambeau makes a deal to get him out of prison if he will get treatment from therapist Sean McGuire. And Will and Sean McGuire are depicted in this movie poster taken from the Hollywood Suite. Dalton defines statuses as recognizable social positions occupied by an individual and roles as the duties and behaviors expected of an individual for holding their particular statuses. So as an example, for myself, I hold the status of being a student at the University of Mount Union, and my roles when I'm in class involve things like taking notes, showing up on time, and not being disruptive. In the case of Will, several examples of him include, being a kid from South Boston, being a janitor, and being a genius. Those are his statuses. And the roles associated with his status of being a kid from South Boston include things like fighting and swearing and showing that he's tough as nails. As I mentioned earlier, Will was arrested for assaulting a police officer. Now, this is an example of him demonstrating his roles associated with his status of being a kid from South Boston, because you don't back down from a fight. And so he took it to the very end and assaulted a police officer and did as much as he could to show he was tough as nails. Another example, of one of his statuses is being a janitor, and the roles associated with almost any occupation involve showing up on time, following orders, and in his case of being a janitor, one of the roles is cleaning the floors. And all throughout the movie, you can see him mopping and scrubbing the floors. So he's acting in a predictable manner for his occupation. The last example from the film is Will's status as a genius. Now, some of the roles that one usually associates with a genius is discovering groundbreaking theories, being well-read, and having manners. Now, throughout the film, as he's solving complex problems on a math board or, judging other people's book selections, you can tell that he is a genius because of the way he acts. And at any point throughout this film, at any point throughout Will's day, his behavior stems from at least one of these socially defined categories. And now these may overlap and conflict with each other, which leads to role conflict. But all in all, he is demonstrating the role theory. So, There is a connection between role theory and goodwill hunting. Whether he was starting a fight or assaulting a police officer as a kid from South Boston, mopping the floor as a janitor, or solving complex equations on the chalkboards of MIT's hallways, Will was acting out of a way that is predictable based on his social identity in whichever situation he was in. If you're curious about any of the references I mentioned, here they are for your convenience. Now, the last thing I want to leave you with is the role theory isn't about assumptions or judging a book by its cover, but it's more about doing behaviors that are expected of you because of a role you hold. So, for example, if I hold the role of book editor or for work for a printing company, and a book comes across my desk that says, Merriam-Webster's dictionary on it, I'm going to make sure that the contents of the book are words and their definitions, because that's my role and it's what's expected of me in that situation. Thank you.